Okay, we're ready to roll. Go ahead.
All right. So I need to get this. Something's out of the
Thank you,
way.
Nancy.
All right.
Said she's from, I don't know how to say Saskatoon, Sasquatch. I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
It's Saskatchewan,
There you go. Perfect.
Washington. Yeah.
Something else. S-A.
Saskatoon.
Thank you
Oh,
so,
Saskatoon. I didn't see it. Hi.
thank you so much.
Okay. So my name is Dillon, and thank you so much for coming here today to learn more about emotional mastery. And my focus is on the need we all have to realign our emotions, to realign ourselves. So, we've already talked about where you're from. What I want you to do right now is to think about what emotion have you been feeling the most lately? Many of us have been, if we think about what's been going on in the world, a lot of people are very frightened. And they're frightened because things are falling apart, because we're in the middle of wars, because prices are going up, because um, politicians are fighting, uh, and uh, we have illnesses and earthquakes and earth movements and just everything. I don't know how it works for you, but for many of us, we've either been feeling angry or afraid or full of trepidation or sad. We have horrible things happening right now. Now, I just want to, for a moment, mention to you, I don't want to go into it too much, but I've been a psychotherapist for 50 years. And one of the things that I have done is I've helped people who are making major changes where they're changing their entire lives. And when that happens, first of all, some kind of event like COVID might happen, or a loss of a job, or something like that. Uh, that happens, and it throws us into massive change. And we can't, everything changes. It feels like we're going to hell in a handbasket, and we can't figure out using the things that we've already used um, to right our ship. It doesn't work for us anymore. And so now that everything is in the process of change um, in the world, what I want you to consider is that we, as a population, are making a huge change, and therefore, first of all, everything is falling apart. Now, that I hope will help you to be a little calmer about what's going on, because there is a stated process. I have a book called Transformational Chaos. That's exactly what we're going through, and there are steps to it. There's a process, and I've never known anybody not to go all the way through it on an individual level, though the way to not go all the way through it is to try to resist it. So I just want to mention that to you. There's really not a whole lot going wrong, but we don't have much to hold on to these days. And we don't know how to set things up so that we can write them. And it's extremely hard to keep calm and balanced through this experience. It does help me to know that it's an experience, and I'm not, when you go through it on an individual basis, people go, I think I'm crazy. I think I'm going crazy. You're not going crazy. The other thing that people run into is there is no end to this. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And my job as therapist has been to point out to people there is light. And there are also simple and effective things that we can do on an individual daily basis in order to stay calm and connected. And that's part of what I want to explore with you today. Oh, and we already know about what these things are. We already have them inside of us, we know them, but until recently, until now, we don't really know how to work with them effectively. And so we need new ways of working inside of us. And that's what that's my whole purpose in life right now is to share these new ways. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this work. My name is Dillon. I've been a psychotherapist for 5 decades now, and I'm a recovered angry person. And for what happened for me is I had an experience 50 years ago that really pissed me off. And I didn't even know I was an angry person. I didn't know I had anger in me. But once this event happened, anger just started spewing out of me. And it was creating problems for me and for my family and for my work. And I couldn't seem to stop it. In fact, this spewing went on for a couple of years. And I went around, I had already been trained as a therapist, and I went around to my therapy, the people I was doing therapy with. I went to books, I went to colleagues, I went back to the library from the University of California in Berkeley that I just got my master's degree from, and said, what is this? What are emotions? Why do we have them? Why am I so angry? What can I do about it? Can I get rid of this anger? How do I get it to stop spewing like this? And sadly, I found out there were no answers. So starting then, I decided I had to find my own answers since there weren't any. And so I went on this progression, which is from angry person to recovering angry person to today, where I consider myself a recovered angry person. And I went on a 20-year quest to find answers to those questions that I had. What are emotions? And I was working with anger, but as I went along, I realized that all emotions work the same basic way. They're designed to do a certain job. All emotions operate the same way. And so before we get into more complete exploration of important emotions, I want to talk to you about how emotions work in general. So emotions are designed to do a particular job and they're helpers. They're not negative. We have them all our lives long, and we've had them for thousands of years, and yet we don't know enough about them to keep them from killing us right now. We've had recently, as I've been working on my book on anger mastery, have come up with the information that um, we now have statistical and research evidence that shows that repressed anger, not anger itself, but repressed anger, is the real culprit, and it is part of what creates three killer diseases that we know of, and that is diabetes, heart and circulatory issues, and cancer. And so repressed anger that we don't even know about actually is killing us. And this has to change. So I went out looking for answers. I found some, I applied them to myself, and then I turned to my clients and said, would you like to try this? And so my hat's off to my many wonderful clients who took the risk of trying things with me. But over time, what happened is I discovered there's a system that's involved with emotions and it works. And when you work with it, the results last a long time. During COVID, a number of people that I had worked with previously kind of tracked me down. I'd already closed down my business, but they tracked me down on the internet, wanting a check-in or a checkup. And one of the things that I discovered was that the emotional work we had done, some of them had worked with me as long as before as 45 years. And the emotional work that we did was still in place. They weren't coming for a do-over. They were coming for help with something new. So that's important for you to know that this way of working with emotions lasts a long time. I call it emotional mastery. I'm also learning to use the term realignment. We really need to realign ourselves with the emotions that come up in us. And I want to just suggest to you that this is an approach that you likely have not learned. I know a few of you are on the call who know me and have worked with me, so you know, but most people that I talk with have never learned an approach like this that actually works. And to understand how the approach works, I need to share with you the context I within which I offer this, and that is that we are all on the earth as students. I see Earth as a giant school. So you can see how lovely it is, but also it's concrete. And what that means is that we get really fast feedback. If you put your hand on the handle of a hot skillet, you'll get immediate feedback that your hand is burning. If you say or do something that doesn't sit well with somebody else, they'll give you immediate feedback. And what's important about it being concrete is that it speeds learning. You know, when you get fast feedback, you learn faster if you're listening, and that we will be talking about that a lot. And so while we're here, the way we learn in the giant school, while we're here, is we have experiences. And each experience is an opportunity to learn. Now, the interesting thing is that we don't have to learn the lesson when it's presented to us. And it's pretty normal that human beings resist change. We don't like to change. Usually people wait until the pain of where they are and what they're doing already is so great that they think it couldn't be any worse if they try the new thing. That's how long we wait. But in the meantime, once we have an experience, then the lesson has been presented to us. And if we decide not to work with it, we set it aside, we don't have time, it scares us, whatever reason, what happens is we think it disappears. For a while it may, but it comes back again, and it comes back again, and it comes back again. And every time it returns, our pain increases. Mother Nature's interesting little way to insist that once we have a lesson, we learn it. So we know that when we resist change, we increase our pain. And in general, when we're working with emotions, resistance is not a good idea. But here's the wonderful part. The instant we turn and learn that lesson, it's over. We get to celebrate like this young woman is doing here. Now, emotions accompany our experiences, right? We have an experience and we feel angry. We have an experience and we feel delighted. And we have an experience and we feel sad, right? And I want to be really clear that we'll talk about this again in a moment, but I want you to start changing the way you relate to emotions. Most of us say, well, this is my anger, my sadness, etc. And I'd like you to consider this is the sadness I'm feeling. This is the anger that arose in me. This is the fear that came up. All right. so that we don't attach everything to ourselves. So emotions are bringing messages. Every different kind of emotion has a different message. And the purpose of those messages is to aid us with our learning. It helps us to decipher the experience we've had so that we know what it is that we need to learn. And that then makes emotions messengers, helpers. And so, for example, let me give you an example here. Loneliness. Now, most people think that our whole culture says we feel lonely when because we are not connected to other people, and that is not actually what loneliness is trying to tell us. What loneliness is trying to tell us is that we have more energy going out than coming in. Another way of hearing that is we're not loving ourselves enough. We're paying more attention to the world. We're paying more attention to our children. We're paying more attention to our spouse, to our coworkers at work, whatever. Our energy is going out to them instead of coming into us. Now, when I'm traveling in my RV, sometimes I do feel lonely. And knowing this, I can correct the loneliness in about a minute and a half. And the easy way to bring energy in is through emotions because emotions are energy. They are energy in motion. Now, one of the reasons we haven't really understood emotions well up to this point is that we haven't had an agreed upon notion or definition of what emotions are. In fact, the definition I'm giving you right now is still not being accepted, say, by the American Medical Society or the uh, psychology or psychiatric associations. But think of emotions as energy in motion, emotions, because that then helps us to understand them enough that we can work with them. And it makes it really simple. And one of the reasons it is simple is that energy and emotion share the same rules, and we already studied those in high school. We know that energy cannot be created, we can't destroy it. We know that energy needs to move. We know that we can harness energy to do work. And we know that energy can transform into other forms of energy. Anger energy, for example, can transform into enthusiasm. Another thing we know is that energy, like water you may catch behind a dam that finds a hole in the dam, it can be very destructive if we've held on to energy for a while and it finds a way to escape. So with emotions, the first thing that we need to do is to accept when we have an experience, we accept the presence of emotions and we know that they have a message for us. So we help them to move by partnering with them, by saying, okay, so you're telling me that I need to bring more energy in. I'm going to do that right away. And then I can also look at that experience I had to learn to figure out, to decode the learning, the message that is in my experience. So in doing that, we are assisting emotions to do work. We're working with the energy of emotions, and since emotions need to move, we let them move on. So we want to assist emotions to transform. And to do that, we do not want to store and build them up. We need to let them keep moving and moving like a stream. Okay, so what's a process for working with emotions? First of all, recognize and allow the emotion. Where is it in your body? Put your hand right now where you feel loneliness. Okay? I find myself putting my hand right here. All right. Now, my book that we have a picture of at the back, Emotions in Motion, I have 12 emotions in that book that I talk about what their signals are. And there is both a paperback and an electronic version. We're working on the audio right now. So as soon as you recognize and allow the emotion and identify where it is in your body, then you want to know what its message is. Okay. And once you have its message, then you can allow yourself to respond to the lesson and the message that you're getting from a particular emotion. And you want to do it as soon as possible because what's the point of building up all the pain? And part of what it is that I want people to learn to do is to recognize, okay, we're in a big giant school. We have opportunities to learn. We get the signal of what we want to look at. If you stop right now and learn that lesson, you're going to be finished with it. It's like that. It's so fast, you won't believe it. And it doesn't come back. One of the things that's frustrated me about other people's way of working with emotions is, oh, okay, so we're going to work with anger today, and we're going to do this little technique, and I'll do a little meditation and so forth, and that's well and fine, and it works until the next time that same anger comes back, and to me, that's way more work than we need. If I stop right away, if I identify where it is in my body, I get the idea of what it is that it's telling me, I apply it to the lesson, and I learn the lesson, then I'm done. And that particular issue does not come back again. Now, you can carry issues for years. In my 60s, some years back, I unraveled a lesson that had been presented to me when I was 2 years old, and I'd been carrying it ever since. It was a lesson about me, whether I belonged in other people's families. I was neglected as a little child, and I wandered the neighborhood, and the neighbors would take me in and feed me and clothe me, and then they would say, "But you don't really belong here. You need to go back to your home." Well, when I was 60, I had 2 different experiences over a 3-year period where I was very involved with other people's families to the point of, finding doctors, giving support, going to just doing everything, being like a member of the family. And at the last minute, I was dumped out on my ear. "Oh, you don't really belong here. You have to stay in the hallway. You can't come into this room in the hospital." And that was a shock. But that lesson had been there all those years. And I turned and deciphered it as soon as I could figure it out. And it never happened again. And 3 weeks after I made the change, you have to change your beliefs. 3 weeks after my ex-husband's wife called me and said she understood, I had been uh, not been allowed to uh, uh, come into her injured son's hospital room, and she wanted to know I was welcome and I could come at any time. And I never had that experience again. So that give you a little idea of how something can work. What we don't want to do is what I did, but maybe all of us have some of that, which is to carry something like that for what, close to 60 years. And so that's what I mean to just do it right away. Let yourself do it. So you want to identify, resolve the lesson, and then there's a little rest. You can be grateful for the fact that you've learned the lesson, and then you move on. Well, what else do we need to know about emotions? We tend to think of anger, for example, as a negative emotion. Have you ever heard of negative water or negative wind or bad wind or bad water. Energy isn't bad or negative, it just is. And emotions are the same as energy. So they're not bad or negative. And as we said before, they don't belong to us. So we don't want to say it's my anger, my hurt. Why? Because emotions are energy and they need to move. And if we say it's my anger, we attach it to ourselves. So we want to start talking in terms of the fear I feel, not my fear. So, wow, I've kind of sped through this for a moment. So let me tell you a little bit more about emotions. So every emotion is attempting to tell us something. And we need to start relating to them as friends. And let me tell you a couple of other emotions and what they're trying to tell us. Anger, for example. Anger tells us that we have developed expectations in ourselves about how things are supposed to work in the world. And those expectations are incorrect. And so we need to change them. So anger comes up in us to tell us what the expectations are. Let's say I'm driving on the freeway and a driver cuts in front of me and I get angry because the driver cut in front of me. Well, my expectation obviously is that drivers should not cut in front of me on the freeway. So I can almost hear you laughing now. Of course, we all know that lots of drivers, and I've surveyed, interestingly, women say maybe 35% of drivers cut in front of them. Some men have said 100% of drivers cut in front of you. But nonetheless, we are getting angry because a driver cut in front of us. And is that driver making us mad? Or is it because we have the idea that that should not happen, that we feel angry? And I submit to you that when we're angry, nobody else makes us angry. It's because we're carrying an idea of how things are supposed to happen, and they're not happening that way, and therefore we get angry. So if you don't wish to be getting angry, because anger, by the way, is the most um, powerful. No, it's the yeah, anger is the most active emotion that we have. Love is the most powerful emotion. All right. And we'll learn more about that when we get to looking at anger, but it's the most powerful in that it's very animated and it keeps trying, when we hold on to it, it keeps trying to get out. It's like a storm lashing up a lake or a river to get out of the dam that you've put water behind. All right. It's constantly working. That's why it causes us illness. And so we want to, the way to break through anger is to say, well, what's the reality? The reality is a certain percentage of drivers on the freeway cut in front of people. And so the next time a driver cuts in front of me, here's what I say: oh, you're part of the 35%. Okay. Now I'm focusing on something different. I'm not focusing on you're doing something wrong, something that shouldn't happen. And what's very interesting is that we don't all agree on what the expectations are. One of the things that's confusing to people regarding anger is that different people get angry about different things. Well, that's because we have different expectations of how the world is supposed to work. Okay, so it's so you can begin to see that anger's energy, what you need to do with anger is to find a way to get that energy to move. Like, okay, you cut in front of me. I don't like it necessarily, but I recognize that the world really is set up where some drivers do cut in front of you on the freeway, and therefore I'm releasing myself from getting worked up about what you're doing, because what you're doing is just what you do, and I'm going to let it go, right? And so we work that way with every emotion. Since I'm a recovered angry person, I love the examples of anger because they're really intense. And when we get to a course on anger, and I'm inviting you to begin to learn more about emotions in this way, uh, it's amazing how powerful anger is, and how we hold on to it, and how important it is, and how much we don't understand it. And so here's an important thing too, is because it's energy. Remember the law says you can't get rid of energy. So I can't get rid of anger. But before, my anger was like huge. My anger. It's a hard habit to change. The anger I felt was huge. Now, when I notice anger, it's about this big by comparison. It doesn't totally go away, and yet it's not taking up my entire visage here. I can utilize emotions the way they've been created to be used, and have them take a position where they're not everything in my life, but they're only small things that are signaling me, and I can work with those signals. So, one of the things I like to emphasize about emotions and working with them is how simple it is. You know, years ago, I went to the Picasso Museum in Spain, and I was astounded when we went in to see that when he was a teenager, he made drawings that were so detailed, they looked like photographs. They were incredible. And then the way the museum was set up, you went through his blue period and his red period and all of those things. And by the time you got to the end, this was a horse and that was a woman. And you could tell. And so it really impressed me that he went from complication to simplicity. And I began to notice that people who are really proficient, people who are experts, people who are masters, they always look for the simple. And working with emotions has been way too complicated. You know, you have to meditate on this and think about that and do this thing over. And the other thing is to, to do things over and over again. So I don't have a lot of patience. And when I started looking at this, I didn't want to spend a lot of time going over and over things. So the simplicity is that emotions have a signal for us, they have a message, and we can work with that message and learn the lesson and move on. And we're not called back for that same lesson ever again, or that same category of lessons. Okay. So I don't have to keep learning not to get angry about drivers on the freeway. I got it now. Okay. All right, so that gives you a little bit more about emotions. And I want to talk to you now about the opportunity that we want to offer you. I'm very excited about this. I've been working with emotions for 50 years, and it's time for me to get stuff out the door. I don't have to belabor it. The world really needs to know how to work with emotions. We're killing ourselves, each other, allowing illnesses to kill us. So, my idea is uh, that we're going to start with the positive. As I told you, I've worked with at least 12 emotions already. So, we have a series of different classes that we can offer you. But I want to start with the positive. And that means I'd like to invite you to open your heart and your life to love. Now, I don't know, take a minute and think what kind of issues do you have with love? We all have issues. Either we didn't get enough, we got too much, we had it taken away, but we all have issues with love. And here's another thing I want to challenge you with. Life is lived from the inside out, not from the outside in. What that means is that what we have inside of us, we tend to attract from outside of us. So the primary emotion you can fill yourself with that will transform your life forever is love. And that's why I want to start with it. Especially now with the holidays coming, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to learn how to uh, supplement or find or build up the love that's inside of you, how that works to allow you to feel more love with other people, to have them show you more love without you having to put a lot of effort into it. And it's time now. So we want to start with that because that's going to give us a level field for us to develop as time goes on. So, when you learn about love, you're going to learn simple communication tools and ways of living so that you can stay neutral but strong. Okay, that's what we want to do. Neutral but strong. So, we're going to help you awaken the love that you may be missing, discover how to get a constant flow, and this one I like, open the door to have more than enough love. I knew that I had enough, I knew that I had finally gotten love inside of me when I started traveling maybe 20 years ago. And everybody around me was complaining about how awful air travel was. And I was going from one wonderful experience to the next, which had not been characteristic of my life beforehand. And so it's a wonderful thing once you welcome love inside of you, how it manifests in your life and how supportive it is and how it helps you stay even in your life. And that's why we want to start here. So we're offering a 3-session course, and we're asking you to open yourself to increase love. You're going to discover how to keep love safe for you and how to increase love from others. These are so important. You know, I really got this living life from the inside out instead of the outside in when I was asked to participate in a summit about love by a colleague of mine a few years back. And I realized that people are always looking for love out there. Someday my prince will come. Someday I will find the love I'm looking for. And I realized that that's not how we get love. If we look for love outside of us, we will never find it. We'll never get enough of it. But when we bring love inside of us, we have more than enough. And we receive more from outside of us, and we have more to share. And once you have mastery over love, it cannot be taken away from you. It grows, it lasts, it evolves. It fills you up. I can't begin to tell you. Now I tell people, hey, I was a very angry person. I'm a recovered angry person. Most people go, really? I wouldn't believe that for a second. because I'm very different now than I was then, because when you're full of love, you're very different. So we're looking for special people, and we're so grateful to you for signing up today so that we can tell you about signing up for this session today that we're talking about so we can tell you about what's coming up. We want, I'm ready to teach the world about realigning with emotions. And you can go as far or not far as is right for you. But we're looking for people who really want to transform their lives by developing what I call emotional mastery. And that doesn't mean that you can get rid of emotions or you're always on top of them. What it means is that emotions work, you and emotions are working together, and emotions aren't ruling your life. You're not just an angry person or a fearful person. That's what we're looking for. If you're ready to do that, if you're ready to start on that, then we're going to encourage you to sign up for our class that begins on the 29th. And in order to tell you more about it, I want to introduce you to Mr. Joshua Finch, who's been looking after things behind the screen today. And Joshua, can you take it from here?
Yeah, of course. Hello, hello. Let me just grab the link that I want to share with you guys, because I want you to be able just to take a minute and register for what she was just speaking about. She was telling us that we can actually just answer a few questions and make sure that this is perfect for all of us. So in the chat right now, I'm going to drop in a form. Okay, hopefully that's not my editable form, but if it should be one that you could just answer like 5 or 6 questions. If you could just open that just to make sure that it opens for everybody. We're going to also send it in an email as well. But we want to just see if you could just open that and access it right now and see if you can just review those questions, because we want to really, oh, you know what? I didn't send it to everybody. I sent it to one person. Let me try that again. That one person, Nancy, did do it, so thank you so much. So please make sure that you can all open that form. And when you open that form, again, it's going to give a little description, then it's going to have a few questions. They're just click, 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 and send it in. So that way we can have you already filled out. And then Ilene can review it and see how everybody fits in the right spot. And then I'll actually say thank you to Ilene, because I'm here and I appreciate it. I got right into business, and I want to say thank you so much, Ilene. I'm Joshua Finch, and my friend Jason Demchuk actually is a world traveler and a networker, and he meets beautiful people such as Ilene, and he connects with me as
And
well.
you.
Yeah, with me,
Yeah.
thank you. And we both have very similar things. So while you're clicking on that, can anybody just give me a clear yes or a thumbs up or something? Just if you can just type yes, that document opened for me. Hi, Beth, I see you. You're on mute though. If you'd like to say something, go for it.
I don't see the document. And Nancy's saying that she also doesn't see the document.
Okay, let me try one more time. So in the chat, it says, it should say a form, and you should be able to click it. So it's actually not a document, it's actually just a link. So just look in the chat real quick, and that's 100% what I'm doing here. I want to make sure everybody can open it. We're definitely going to send it again, but the more I can get you to open it, the better we'll get moving.
And Joshua, Mr. Joshua, I love it. I just want to mention too what a fabulous work you are doing in the world, and I want to make sure after this forms are handled that that you do tell us more, please, about what you do. And I want to just tell people the process that you fill this out. I will be looking at your answers, and I'll be getting back to you about this is you're in essence making an application for this process. And I want to make sure you're all a good fit who are interested, and then we'll send you information about signing up for the course on love.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eileen. So yeah, so she's going to really make sure it works for you, because we don't want this just getting out there. We want this getting out there where you can use the tools and you can apply it to life, and you can start to spread love, fill yourself with love so much that you overflow and give it to all the rest of the world. We could bring some more love into the container where it's not always there. Can everybody just tell me how it's going? So Nancy did fill it out with one. Beth, were you able to get it? Yes. Okay. Beth got one. So if any of you others have the opportunity to just type yes or Y into the chat and hit enter, that would be fantastic. Again, we're going to send it out in an email as well. So we will be sending it again. Sometimes emails fly by. So that's why I'm trying to make sure we get it done now. Again, 6 or 7 questions. Nancy already finished it, so it's very much applicable to finish it now. Now is the best time, always now. And then while we're doing that, okay, thank you, Nancy. I'll share just a little bit about you. Eileen asked me to share, and I'm honored to share. I appreciate it. Again, I was saying Jason Demchuk actually introduced us because he saw us fitting together. And Eileen's whole life, she's been growing and learning all around emotional intelligence and how to really help people ease their suffering by knowing, have the awareness of emotions. And of course, much, much more. And then I have been doing something similar, which Eileen, if you could just click the slide 1, I have put a visual.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I am known as Mr. Joshua. I teach emotional intelligence to children, is where I started in a nonprofit. And then I grew all the way into teaching adults about emotional intelligence, but I do it all through a very unique way through visual storytelling, through cartoons, through conscious cartoon adventures. So you can see some of my drawings there. They're actually designed for a 3, 4, 5-year-old, and I hold a space for adults. Well, actually, I'll start with the kids. I hold a safe space for kids to feel accepted and loved and grow their creativity and their self-expression through the arts. And then I realized as I started volunteering in personal development and coaching and all these trainings that help people transform their inner world into the world that they want to live, I realized that I could help teach inner child work to adults by applying the stuff that I applied to 3, 4, 5-year-olds to adults. And I created this very unique way of connecting with your inner child, healing through drawing and expressing yourself and making sure your voice is heard. Some of us have heard it said before to children, shut up, be silent, and you're meant to be seen and not heard. And there's all kinds of things that happen as we grow up. And as Eileen will definitely explain, but this is a tool that I've made that's very unique to me, and it helps me heal my inner child because I grew up drawing with artists, and now I use my art to share my heart and help others transform and bring more light into the world. So again, the beginning is Jason saw us and was like, we should be meeting together. And now I'm a humble servant and I just want to learn everything she's got. She's offering everything to you guys. So I'm right there with you, eager to learn how we can heal and learn about love and emotions. And that's all for me.
It charmed me when I met you that you said you taught a master class in emotional literacy for kindergartners. I like that.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing on what that is that's actually with Tammy Valyers, is one of my other mentors, and she's been with me for the last 2 years, or I've been with her as another servant to her. Is I built my life. When you start to fill with love and you start to fill with these emotions and get in touch with your emotions, you get on more of a path to the things that are really important to you and to the purpose and the passion. And then those people come into the container, and Tammy Valyers brought me into her container, which is an international team teaching children at 3, 4, 5 years old about emotional intelligence, about life skills, about leadership, all through kindergarten masterclass. It's a training, and teachers can learn that as well. So thank you so much, Eileen, for giving me the opportunity to share what I'm creating, and I'm complete.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joshua. It's wonderful. So I just want to point out the deadline here. this class doesn't start until the 29th, and we're going to run this today's seminar one more time for people that couldn't make this time. And so the absolute drop dead deadline, once you find out about your once you hear from me regarding these questionnaires, is November 22nd, that you apply to, and then we will notify you no later than noon on November 25th. So we'll do it after Thanksgiving, and we'll give you instructions for attending the course and making your payment at that time. And then the class will start on November 29th. We'll have 3 sessions, the 29th, December 6th, and the 13th. Those are Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time, 4 to 5 Eastern time, Central. You guys have to figure it out yourselves. And if you have questions of me, you can certainly email me, Ilene, ILENE, at emotionalpro.com. And if you want to know more about me, look up emotionalmasteryforlife.com, which is my website. So I think now we've come to the end of this presentation. So let me once again thank you. I'm so excited to, I'm in my, actually the day after, no. Well, at any rate, I'm turning 81 in about 2 weeks. And I'm so excited to have such a fulfilling and wonderful and helpful bunch of information and abilities to share with the world that I think I know impacts the world in positive ways, and very quickly and very simply and quite permanently, it's quite lasting. And so I really look forward to working with you and to getting to know you better, and to transforming your life, realigning you to the extent that you need, realigning you to working with your whole system and your emotions and your life, the way that life and system works, instead of trying things that you have to keep repeating and that don't always work and don't get you where you want to go. So that's what we're offering. I'm very excited for you to be here, to hear my message, and I'll stay on line now for about another 10 or 15 minutes if you have questions. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Ilene.
Yes, sir. Alan.
Yes. Do you find there's a correlation between watching your ego and your emotions? I think my emotions are faster than my ego. I find from listening to Eckhart Tolle and Thich Nhat Hanh that as soon as I start to feel a negative emotion, I can immediately say, is that my ego? And then look how blessed I am for this or for that. Your example of driving in traffic, getting cut off, I get mad for the moment because my emotion beat me to my ego. Do you think there's a correlation between one's ego and how you relate and react to emotions?
Well, sure, there's a relation, because in general, we've sort of been out of control for years and years and years, and ego takes over very quickly. I think Tolle talks about that too, how fast it is and how easily we can feed it.
Mhm.
What I have learned, as you know, Alan, because you and I have talked before, what I have learned is that when I really focus on the emotion and deal with the emotion and learn the lesson at the time it's going on, and it does take some practice, it doesn't happen right from the get-go, the you know, when you started to ask this question, I'm going, ego, I don't deal with ego too much anymore. I think it just sort of like recedes because you're working. It's kind of like going out into the woods. You're working with Mother Nature. You're soaking it up. You're not going, oh, well, I can't do this, or that doesn't work, or that's wrong. You don't do that. You just go out and be in Mother Nature. And that's the way being with emotions and working with them. That's the way my life has come to feel to me. And it's a report I've received from other people also.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. It's great. Anybody else?
I believe Nancy, you had a question earlier. Would you like to tell her?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Great. This time it's working. I just wrote in the comment section about boundary violations and anger. And I think anger awakens us to that violation. And when right after I wrote that, I realized, oh, that's just non-acceptance. The anger is like, I don't accept this. So how do you work with that if there's a boundary violation, or if it like in one circumstance I've had somebody kind of doing not nice things on Facebook and I get angry, but then I think if I learn how to, or just develop the muscle. I guess acceptance is like a muscle, and the more we use it, the stronger it gets, and then you're less reactive or angry when somebody is being really mean. So how do you have any advice on working in that area? Because anger is a healthy emotion, but like you said, don't hang on to it, and don't be resistant to what's actually happening. It is happening. You're getting it. I'm
Okay.
getting angry because I think it shouldn't be happening, you know?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So you either change your shoulds or you take an action. You think it shouldn't be happening. What if you're totally correct and you need to get that person off your Facebook, or you need to get yourself off of Facebook,
Yeah.
or you need to block that person? So the interesting thing about anger is it encourages us to take action, to take
Right.
power. And so that's really key there to when you feel the anger, okay, something has crossed here. What do I need to do? What do I want to do to take care of myself? What how do I deal with my expectations? What action can I take? And in essence, um, all of anger is telling us where we have incorrect ideas about how the world works, and so we want to correct those ideas and take action. And I learned about boundaries in the late 80s, I think, where I went on a trip with a friend of mine, an older man who had a heart issue, and he said, "I'll take you to Europe with me if you'll come and make sure I stay safe." And on the trip, I realized that he'd become an alcoholic since I last was there, and I needed to set a boundary for myself. And prior to that time, that would make me in my late 40s, my 40s. Prior to that time, I did not know how to set boundaries for myself. And so I just started. And what I realized was that setting boundaries actually is a way of loving yourself.
Mhm.
That it's almost like you set a boundary. This works for me. That doesn't work for me. As women, we often go, "Oh, I can't be that harsh. I'm too demanding. That people won't like me." I found out the opposite is true. the the more I set a boundary, this doesn't work for me, the more people seem to appreciate me. So I felt like energy was coming up through my feet from the earth when I set boundaries.
Mm.
And it just takes over. And so at that time, I just made a rule for myself. Number one, on that trip, I took an hour to myself every day. I wouldn't let any other energy be there. I was driving, so I didn't have a whole lot of time. But I did something regularly, and I also, whenever I felt something uncomfortable, I made a boundary, and it was just amazing to me what a difference it made. And anger ceased being an issue as soon as I learned to protect myself, basically.
Right.
Does that
Yeah.
help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you, Irene.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hi, Eileen. This is the other Nancy, and I have a question of what you think about grief. My perception, there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot of unprocessed grief that we feel from so many different directions and reasons. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that from your therapeutic perspective, and how we could apply that to our understanding of things that are going on in the world.
Well, we got a lot of things to grieve. Well, my favorite definition of grief comes from the Grief Recovery Handbook that was published in Southern California. And they say that grief results when the your everyday life is changed irrevocably. Okay, so I really like that definition. Um, I had a relative that I had problems with some years ago, and I talked with him about the things, and we forgave each other. And I was able to thank him for being in my life. He was on his deathbed. And when I went to his funeral, uh, other people who were there were crying, and I was not. And someone close to me snuck up behind me and said, "Would you stop being such a therapist and cry?" And I said, "But I don't have any tears. I'm finished." And that gave me something that I didn't realize before, that we really need to finish with emotions and finish with what we need to say. And there are various ways we can do it. It's a real challenge now because there's so damn many things that we need to deal with, but uh, writing letters that we never send and saying exactly how we feel, or going out and shouting in the trees, or just to get everything out of us, or to focus on forgiveness. There are numerous things we can do, which when we get to the grief course, we can go more into it. But many things we can do to get finished, and that's what we need to do. And we have a whole lot to finish right now, so we may not make it 100%.
Great. So you will be covering this in the course that you've got coming up, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy. Anyone else? Nobody.
Good job,
All right.
Eileen. Thank you for this today.
Oh, thank you, Alan. I'm so glad you were here.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right. Well,
Thank you.
then thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eileen. If
Thank
you
All
you,
right.
Joshua. Nice to meet you.
thank you so
Happy
much.
birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Cool. How comfortable
Right.
do you guys feel with taking a picture? Can we take a picture? I'm a visual person. Would you guys jump on camera and let me take a screenshot?
Oh, I don't know.
If you
Okay.
can't, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No worries.
I think I'll pass on that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I want everybody to feel comfortable. No worries. Thank you.
No, Mr. Joshua, we're going to have to get more of a commitment from people before they'll let us take their picture.
I have to give them a heads up too, so they're not in their bathrobe or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can fix our
Yeah,
hair.
there's that.
Take your hair and stuff. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. And Miss Nancy, Boyd, thank you so much for your part in letting people know about this course and doing the marketing. You are also a uh, staple in this experience today. Thank you.
My honor. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay. Beautiful. I think we're complete.
All right. How do I find myself again?
If you're all set, I can end it for us if we're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.